The skies above Earth were calm that morning, blue and peaceful. Cities buzzed with their usual rhythm. Children laughed on school steps. Office workers hurried with coffee cups. Farmers drove tractors across green fields. There were no signs that everything was about to change. No alarm, no shadow falling from the clouds. Just a sudden interruption. Every screen across the planet flickered black. Then showed the same cold image. The emblem of the Galactic Council, glowing silver on a deep purple background. It was a symbol that once gave people hope. Now it brought only silence. Phones, billboards, computers, even smartwatches. Every device locked onto one message, one voice, speaking in the Council's perfect, emotionless accent. The species classified as human is hereby removed from protected status. As of this cycle, Earth and all associated colonies are declared abandoned space. No further aid will be given. No Council forces will interfere with actions taken by other sovereign empires within these sectors. This decision is final. Long live galactic unity. And just like that, the message ended. At first, people didn't believe it. They thought it was a prank, a glitch, maybe a test of some emergency broadcast system. But then the networks confirmed it. The Council had cut off all contact. Earth's ambassadors and the core worlds were expelled. Colonial stations lost their trade privileges. Supply shipments were canceled. Defense satellites that once protected human borders were turned off remotely. Within hours, humanity was no longer a recognized member of the Galactic Union. They had been erased. It's like a smudge on a whiteboard. Panic spread fast. People demanded answers, but Earth's government had none. In fact, the President and Defense Council were just as stunned. Secret emergency meetings were called. Military leaders tried to contact the few loyal alien allies they had, but none responded. The message had been absolute. No interference, no help. Humanity had been left on its own in a galaxy full of rivals, enemies, and predators who now had a clear message. Earth was open for the taking, in a distant corner of the solar system, aboard the orbital ship Orion Warden. Captain Elias Wren stood at the main deck watching dozens of Council beacons blink offline one after the other. Around him, his crew stared in disbelief. Most were veterans, men and women who had fought in the Blood Rift campaign, helped rescue the Vera refugees, and even won medals during the Sycorax plague. These were heroes, and yet today, their service meant nothing. Their species was now alone. Wren clenched his jaw as another alert popped up. Unknown ships were entering the edge of Neptune's sector. Fast, aggressive, and untagged. Not Council ships, not even smugglers. Raiders, scavengers, the kind who smelled weakness from light years away, back on Earth. The news broke live. Multiple outer colonies had gone silent within the first 12 hours. One near Alpha Centauri reported hostile contact with what they described as a joint fleet of mercenaries from former enemy empires. Not one of them had dared invade before, not when humanity was under Council protection.
With
Earth cut off, they had nothing to fear. They came like vultures circling a wounded animal. Ilias Ron called an emergency broadcast from the Orion Warden. It wasn't flashy, wasn't official. It wasn't even cleared by Earth's command. But within 3 hours, over 100 million people across the colonies watched his face on cracked screens, dusty terminals, and worn-out handhelds. "We've been betrayed," he said calmly. "The Council didn't cut us off because we failed. They cut us off because they feared we would succeed without them. They feared our independence, our spirit, our refusal to kneel. Well, they were right to fear it, because starting today we stop begging. We stop waiting. We stop trusting anyone who doesn't bleed like us, cry like us, fight like us. This galaxy wants to test us. They'll learn that Earth doesn't fall quietly." The word spread like wildfire. It became a rallying cry. On Luna, volunteers lined up at defense stations. In the Martian domes, engineers worked overnight to bring ancient battlecruisers out of dry dock. Underground bunkers in the asteroid belt lit up for the first time in decades. Civilian transport ships were converted into evacuation vessels. Old satellite codes were unlocked by retired hackers to restart Earth's lost warning networks. Around the solar system, people stopped thinking of themselves as victims. They started calling themselves defenders of Sol, but hope wasn't enough. As Earth scrambled to prepare, enemy fleets were moving faster than expected. The Zarkathi raiders struck the Lumen 4 mining colony just 2 days after the Council's broadcast. No warning, no diplomacy. They turned off life support systems from orbit, then dropped acid bombs to burn through the domes. Over 40,000 people died in an hour. Survivors sent footage showing the raiders laughing, saying, "No Council now. Little Earthlings, you're just meat in space." A week later, the Tolrex Confederacy deployed gunships in the Eros Belt, stealing or disabling habitats, and broadcasting their victory like a sports match. Every hit hurt. Every loss was personal. But humanity wasn't going to go down quietly. Earth's top scientists began activating old research stations hidden deep in Antarctica and the moon projects considered too dangerous during peaceful times. Prototypes, drone armies, EMP satellites, and even Psychican's defense systems, once banned by Council law, were now put back on the table. If the galaxy wanted a lawless battlefield, then Earth would play to win. Meanwhile, strange things began happening. Ships from neutral alien species began showing up on Earth's radar, but not for war. Some brought supplies, hidden weapons, even old maps of enemy supply lines. These weren't government-approved actions. These were rebels, outcasts, traitors who believed Earth had been wronged. And even though they couldn't speak openly, they whispered one truth. The Council had feared humans because of a prophecy. One that spoke of a species from a blue world who would one day reshape the galaxy not with peace, but with fire. As the second week approached, Earth declared martial readiness. Colonies were ordered to either evacuate or prepare to defend. The Defense Council activated Operation Phoenix Shield, a protocol created decades ago for the unthinkable. Total galactic abandonment. Ships were recalled. Weapons were loaded. Every screen on Earth played one message, repeated every hour. This is not the end. This is the line. And somewhere beyond the stars, in the shadows of council chambers, the alien leaders who signed the order to abandon Earth watched in silence as the humans, so small, so isolated, began to rise, not with fear, but with fury, because now, the galaxy would learn what happens when you leave humanity to die. The first attack came at 3:17 a.m. Earth time. It wasn't dramatic. It was no giant alien mothership hovering over New York, or beams of light tearing cities apart. Instead, it began with silence, a long, eerie pause, and satellite signals. Near Earth's outer orbit, civilian communications flickered. As their satellites went dark, military frequencies picked up static. Then, radar stations along Earth's defense grid lit up with red alerts. For unmarked ships, sleek and sharp like black daggers in space, slipped through the asteroid field beyond Mars. They moved fast, without any ID beacons, and carried weapons that weren't supposed to exist outside Council control, inside Earth's orbital station Aegis Prime. Alarms blared as Commander Ria Voss leaned over the main screen, eyes scanning data. "They're not here to talk," she said coldly. "They're here to test how weak we've become." The bridge crew looked nervous. Half of them were fresh recruits, the rest were retired officers, recalled just days ago when Earth activated the Phoenix Shield protocol. No one had fired a real shot in over a decade. But today the wolves had come, and Earth was bleeding in the water. The alien ships didn't send warnings. No demands. No transmissions. They simply fired. One strike took out Earth's outer satellite array. Another destroyed a civilian mining transport trying to escape the asteroid belt. And the last two ships sped straight toward Aegis Prime, ready to destroy the largest defense platform in Earth's orbit. And in that moment, with the planet watching below, Ria Voss gave a single command: fire everything. The station roared to life. Missiles launched like thunder from the underbelly of the platform. Auto turrets tracked enemy movements and fired beams that lit the sky with silent fury. Aegis hadn't seen real battle in decades, but its systems were still hungry. And Earth was no longer interested in warnings. Within minutes, one alien ship was torn apart by railgun fire. The second tried to escape, but got caught in a flurry of anti-ship drones and exploded like a sunburst. The other two fled wounded, but alive, vanishing back into deep space. The wolves had come to sniff around a dying world. But they left knowing one thing. Earth still had teeth. Across the planet, news channels broke the story live. Grainy footage of the battle replayed over and over again. The people, still in shock from the Council's abandonment, now had something else: rage and pride. In one voice, social feeds, forums, and broadcasts echoed a new phrase: "We stand. Alone, we stand strong." That line spread faster than the Council's message ever did. But victory came with a price. Over 700 lives were lost in the orbital attack. The civilian mining ship had families aboard. The satellites destroyed included early warning systems, meaning Earth was now blind in several sectors. Worse, intelligence reports confirmed that this was only the beginning. Dozens of former friendly species had begun to mobilize. Saw Earth as weak. Others simply saw an opportunity to settle old grudges. But one thing was clear: no help was coming. In a bunker beneath Mount Rainier, General Wyatt Shaw stood before a panel of military commanders from around the globe. Old rivals, Americans, Russians, Chinese, Indians, Martians now, forced to work together for survival. Maps of known alien fleets blinked on a wall behind them. "I think we're broken," Shaw said, "because the Council threw us away. But what they forget is we built this world from nothing. We were alone before. We can be alone again." The room fell silent, and the leaders nodded. No politics. No more debates. Earth had only one option now: fight, survive, and build something. The galaxy could never ignore all over the world. Nations activated old programs that had once been shelved under Council pressure. Anti-gravity fighter projects, deep-sea military labs, dark energy reactors, AI-controlled drone fleets that had been banned by interstellar law. Earth was no longer part of the Council. There were no more rules. Meanwhile, far from Earth, in a dusty colony near the red dwarf star Proxima b, a secret resistance cell intercepted a curious signal. It was a private communication between Council diplomats meant to stay hidden. But human hackers were fast, and what they found made blood run cold. The Council hadn't abandoned Earth because of crime, corruption, or war. They had abandoned it because of something older, deeper, something they feared: prophecy. The intercepted file described a legend whispered by ancient alien species. It spoke of a world that would rise when the galaxy became too comfortable. A species from a young star, too chaotic to control, too clever to dominate, one that would refuse to bow, one that would become the spark for something greater. Name of the species was never written in the prophecy. But in the file's final lines, the Council had given it one: humanity. The truth was out. The Council wasn't protecting the galaxy from humans. They were protecting the galaxy from what humans might become. And now, with the protections gone, they hoped Earth would be wiped out before it could rise. Back in the shadows of Earth's hidden facilities, scientists worked on forbidden technologies. In one Arctic base, Project Valkyrian, experimental energy weapon once declared too unstable by the Council was reactivated. In lunar bunkers, engineers tested wormhole grenades, small devices that could fold space and displace enemy ships mid-battle. Humanity was done asking permission. The future wasn't going to be safe, but it was going to be theirs. Then came a surprise. From the edge of human space, a small fleet arrived. Not enemies, not pirates, but rogue alien ships, deserters from the Council's own armadas. Species once forced to obey the Council who now saw on Earth something they admired: defiance, fire. These ships didn't bring war, they brought whispers, blueprints, secrets, evidence that the Council had once feared Earth so much that they sabotaged its research. silently blocked its expansion, used false diplomacy to keep it in check. That revelation changed everything, because Earth wasn't weak. It had been chained. Now the chains were gone, and the galaxy would learn a free humanity. Is a dangerous humanity. The skies above Earth were no longer silent. In every hemisphere, spaceports hummed with activity, factories roared back to life, and entire cities shifted their focus from peace to survival. The world was transforming. It wasn't just war, it was rebirth. A civilization once told to sit quietly at the galactic table had now flipped the table over and started building its own. Inside the Titan class, Manu, Facturing, ring over the moon, engineers in bulky suits floated past massive scaffolding, gigantic pieces of armored plating, fusion cores, and railgun barrels were being assembled into the first true warship Earth had built in over a century, the Horizon Rebellion. Its design broke every council law: heavier weapons, faster thrusters, and a shield system powered by unstable quantum cores. Every inch of it screamed defiance. Back on Earth, recruitment centers saw lines stretching for blocks. People of all ages volunteered. Scientists, miners, ex-soldiers, hackers, even farmers. It didn't matter what you used to do. If you were human, you had a place in the resistance. Across the news waves, one message repeated: we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for the right to be us. But the Council wasn't watching in silence. Far from it, in a hidden sector near the star Gathrillon, the High Council convened in their floating palace above a gas giant. Of human activity played before them military blueprints, intercepted broadcasts, declarations of unity. The emissary of Zulith, a long-tentacled creature with eyes that shimmered like fire, slammed one limb against the council table. "We warned them this would happen," he hissed.
"Now the fire spreads."
Some members of the council wanted to crush Earth completely. Others warned that too much force might unite more rebels. But one voice, calm and cold, cut through the noise. It belonged to Chancellor Velexer, a tall, silver-skinned being from the Varan lineage. "Let them build," he said. "Let them scream. Let them believe they have a chance. And when they step out into the stars, we'll erase them." Back on Earth, nobody cared what the council planned. They were too busy preparing. Deep underground, in Iceland, engineers tested the Nova Lance, a planet-to-orbit energy cannon. In a volcanic lab in Hawaii, scientists worked on Project Umbra, a stealth system using light-bending fields. These weren't just weapons, they were warnings. And yet, even in all this fire and steel, humanity hadn't lost its spark. In the deserts of Arizona, a poet wrote lines that went viral across the resistance. "We were born in the mud, but we reach for the stars. They left us to die, but we choose to rise. They fear what we are because they know we are not the end. We are the beginning." That poem was painted on warships, engraved in bunker walls, and broadcast from hacked council satellites. It wasn't just art, it was truth. The galaxy had mistaken Earth's silence for weakness, but it had only been sleeping. Meanwhile, in orbit around Saturn, Commander Rhea Voss led the final test of Earth's first deep space squadron. Codenamed Ghostwing, this team of elite pilots flew next-gen fighters equipped with prototype gravity thrusters. They were faster than anything the Council had seen and quieter. Like knives in the dark. Their mission wasn't just to fight. It was to send a message. Earth has eyes everywhere now. Their first mission was a success beyond expectation. Ghostwing intercepted a Council weapons convoy bound for a pirate alliance in the Hallex sector. Instead of destroying it, they hijacked it, stealing thousands of crates filled with plasma cores, railgun coils, and stealth field generators. The attack was so clean, so silent, the Council didn't even realize it happened until days later, and by then it was too late. The weapons had already been reverse-engineered and deployed, but even as Earth struck back, there was growing tension beneath the surface. Not everyone on the planet agreed with the new path. Some scientists argued Earth wasn't ready. Some politicians called for diplomacy, for peace talks. Others feared becoming the very thing the Council accused them of a threat. One of them was Elias Tran, respected peace advocate and former ambassador to the Council. He went on international broadcasts warning that too much aggression would lead to Earth's destruction. They still outnumber us, he said. They still have the larger fleets. We must be careful. But even as he spoke, the people turned away. It's not because they didn't respect peace, but because they knew it was no longer an option. The galaxy had already made its choice. Earth would either rise or vanish. Far from Earth in a small colony on Titan, a different kind of war was brewing. Hidden within the ice tunnels, rebel aliens who had once fought under the Council banner, now trained beside humans, they shared secrets, taught ancient battle techniques, and passed on forbidden knowledge the Council had buried for centuries. One of them, a warrior named Kael'thor of the Thrixan people, stood before a group of human soldiers and said, "The Council thinks it can control the fire. But fire cannot be caged. It only waits for oxygen." He pointed to them. "You are that oxygen." As the third month of Earth's resistance began, sensors picked up something massive. A fleet. Not pirates, not rogue factions, but a council. Battle group, 40 ships strong, heading straight for the solar system. It was the first official move. The Council was done waiting. They wanted Earth to kneel or burn. The world didn't panic. Instead, General Wyatt Shaw stepped onto the central broadcast channel, looked into the camera, and spoke the words that would be remembered forever. They called us a mistake, a threat, a problem they could ignore. But now, they've come to end us, and they'll learn we are not here to kneel. We're here to teach them fear. Earth's forces gathered, satellites aligned, fighters launched. And in that moment, the planet united under a single idea. This wasn't the end of humanity's story. This was just the beginning of their war. The stars above Earth were no longer peaceful. They had become the battlefield where destiny would be decided. As the massive Council fleet approached, its ships darkened the sensors like a swarm of shadows. 40 warships, each capable of flattening. A city, each carrying thousands of soldiers, drones, and weapons never before used on Earth. They expected surrender. They expected fear. They expected humans to fall on their knees. Instead, they were greeted with fire, high above the Earth's atmosphere, hidden in the shadows of the moon. Earth's defense grid activated. It had no elegant name, just a call sign, Aegis Protocol. Dozens of weaponized satellites powered by nuclear cores came online at once. They didn't wait. They didn't negotiate. They launched. The first Council destroyer, Zethrax V, was sliced clean in half before it even entered low orbit. The second Arenthel was hit by 3 synchronized railgun shots, punching holes through its core reactor. It spun like a dying beast before exploding in a burst of cold blue fire. Within 30 seconds, 2 ships were gone. Inside the Earth's deep command bunker, General Wyatt Shaw watched with calm, cold eyes. "That's the greeting card," he said. "Now let's introduce them to the neighbors." On the surface, anti-orbit cannons hidden beneath mountain ranges roared to life. Massive EMP missiles launched from submarines buried under ice. And then came the true surprise. Cloaked drone swarms, launched from every continent, rising like a metallic storm into space. They didn't target the main ships. No, these drones sliced through communications, jammed signals, and blinded the fleet's sensors. The Council was used to fighting organized, obedient enemies. They weren't ready for chaos. In the command room, aboard the Council flagship Valerian, Admiral Raxer of the Zynthian race screamed in disbelief. Where are their ground troops? Why don't they send diplomats? Where is their chain of surrender? But there was no answer. Only static. Then, a signal broke through, clear and strong, a voice from Earth, repeating the same 5 words on every Council channel. "You left us to die." In the battle over the Atlantic sky, Earth's first fully operational stealth battleship, the Horizon Rebellion, uncloaked behind enemy lines. Its design was like nothing the Council had ever seen. Sharp, angular, angry. It moved like a ghost, using gravitational wave drives that shimmered space behind it. Without warning, it unleashed a full spread of ion torpedoes and burst plasma. Lance's 5 enemy ships lost power within seconds. Some drifted helplessly. Others exploded in silence, but the battle wasn't without cost. Earth's outpost on Mars was hit by long-range kinetic weapons. The impact cracked its main dome and left hundreds exposed to the red dust and vacuum. The Council flagship launched drones toward Earth's orbiting labs. Thousands of Council soldiers began drop-pod. Its descent over Africa and Europe. That's when the ground war began, in the forests of Central Europe. Human and allied rebel forces launched ambush after ambush. Thrixan warriors leaped from trees, slicing through Council machines. Human snipers took down exosuit commanders from cliffs. In the burning streets of Berlin, former students now turned guerrilla fighters laid explosive traps, fighting side by side with alien defectors. The Council expected to crush resistance in ours. Instead, every street became a trap. Every crater was a hiding place. Every signal they used was being traced. In the frozen plains of Alaska, Earth's first mobile mech battalion, Iran Echo, Unitros from beneath the snow. Giant machines, powered by old mining reactors, covered in steel and scars, marched toward the enemy with flamethrowers, magnetic shields, and blunt force missiles. They didn't move fast, but they never stopped. In orbit, Ghost Wing struck again. Commander Ria Voss and her pilots dived through enemy formations like eagles, shooting down drop pods before they could reach Earth. One Council dreadnought locked onto them. But before it could fire, it was ripped apart by a Nova Lance fired. From a mountain range in Nepal, guided by engineers who had once been school teachers, and through all the chaos, through the fire and fury, one truth became clear. Earth was not just defending itself. It was pushing back. Council leaders were stunned. Their ships weren't just being destroyed, they were being outmaneuvered. Their strategies weren't just failing, they were being predicted. And worst of all, Earth was gaining allies. Broadcasts were being intercepted by enslaved races across the galaxy. Beings who had never dared to resist were now watching Earth rise and thinking, what if we're next? What if we fight too? In secret corners of the galaxy, revolts began, small at first. A mining colony here, a worker rebellion there. But the Council felt it. It's like sparks catching dry leaves. Earth was the match. But back home, not all was victory. In the underground bunkers of New York, Dr. Marla Yin received a signal-encrypted alien and ancient. It was from deep space, far beyond Council territory. The code carried knowledge. Warnings and a terrifying message: you were not supposed to win. They will send something worse. What did it mean? Who sent it? Was it a trick? Before she could respond, her console shut down. Then it turned back on, displaying one phrase: the architects are watching. The Council fleet began to retreat by day's end. Not because they had one, but because they didn't understand what they were fighting anymore. Earth had not just resisted. Earth had redefined war. It wasn't polished, it wasn't clean, and it wasn't polite. It was unpredictable, furious, unrelenting. Humanity had shown that it didn't need the galaxies, its permission to exist. But in the shadows of the stars, deeper threats stirred. The war had only just begun. And Earth was about to learn that victory had a cost far greater than it expected. The sky above Earth was quiet again, but no one believed the silence. The ruins of burned cities smoldered. The bodies of brave soldiers, human and alien alike, were buried under shattered steel. Humanity had survived the first wave. Military leader, every scientist, every rebel commander knew it was not over. The Council had lost the battle, but the war was changing. It was growing colder, smarter, darker, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, inside a high-security underground facility. A meeting took place between Earth's top minds. Scientists, strategists, and rebel leaders gathered around a round steel table. On it, projected in holographic blue, spun a strange alien symbol, one that had appeared in dozens of Council communications, recently intercepted by Earth's satellites. The symbol glowed and pulsed like a living thing.
Ow.
It was not Council design. It was older, deeper, Dr. Marla Yin stepped forward and tapped her tablet. This is not just a message. It's a countdown. Silence fell. Everyone in the room stared at the strange glyphs twisting like vines in the air. She continued, her voice low. 3 days ago, a signal came from the edge of our system. Repeated one phrase, Protocol Ascension, Phase 2. At first, we thought it was Council encryption, but it's not. It's from something else. It's something even the Council is afraid of. General Wyatt Shaw crossed his arms. You're saying it's bigger than the war we've been fighting? Marla nodded. I think the Council wasn't trying to conquer Earth. I think they were trying to protect something, or stop us from waking it up. The room froze. Miles above them, a secret orbital station sentinel point picked up an anomaly. A wave of gravitational distortion swept across the moon. Instruments spun wild. Artificial satellites blacked out for 4 seconds. Then, a sound. Not a sound you could hear, but one you could feel like a heartbeat, slow and ancient. Rippling through space, Commander Ria Voss, stationed on Sentinel Point, stared at the readings. That's not natural, she whispered. Something moved out there. Something. Huge. At the same moment, the signal returned. This time it was clearer. A voice, robotic, emotionless, initiating recovery. Phase 2 begins now. Subject, Earth. Status, contamination. It wasn't a message for Earth. It was a message about Earth, in the icy tundra of Antarctica, where Council drop pods had left deep scars in the land. A strange structure began to rise from the snow. Not metal, not stone. Something else. Smooth, black, reflecting no light. The scientists dispatched to investigate couldn't explain it. It pulsed with power. It was waking up. Dr. Yin, upon seeing the scans, gasped. It's a beacon. Ancient records spoke of them. The Council found one centuries ago, then sealed the planet it was on. They called it a Warden's signal, a device left behind by the architects. General Shaw narrowed his eyes. You mean the same architects that warned us earlier? The ones watching? Yes, she said quietly. And they don't just observe. They reset civilizations. The beacon wasn't alone. Reports flooded in from across the planet, one in the Sahara, another beneath the Mariana Trench, a third emerging in Siberia. It's all identical, all awakening, all broadcasting frequencies that twisted minds and broke computers. People near them had seizures. Machines fried, plants withered. The Earth itself began to feel wrong. The beacons weren't weapons. They were judgment machines. The architects were not gods. They were ancient engineers who once shaped the galaxy, building rules, codes, and barriers to stop chaos from spreading. Earth had broken through every test, not by passing, but by surviving, defying, and resisting. Humanity was not supposed to reach this point. And now the architects had noticed. On a backwater council outpost in a dying system, the last message from a panicked administrator played across a cracked hologram. They're coming. The architects are real. Should never have been static. The system vanished from all records. General Shaw didn't panic. He just stared at the blinking red dot over Antarctica. If we're being judged, he said, let's give them a reason to fear the verdict. Operation Black Star was launched within hours. Earth's forces, now armed with salvaged alien tech, advanced AI, and battle-hardened soldiers moved fast. Their goal: destroy the beacons before they completed their broadcast. But that was easier said than done. In the Amazon, the first strike team approached the beacon. It wasn't protected by walls or weapons. It was protected by time. Reality bent around it. Drones stopped working. Soldiers forgot who they were. Some saw visions of Earth's future burning, frozen, or swallowed by the stars. One soldier screamed. It's not showing us death. It's deciding what kind of death. Still, they fought forward. Explosives were placed. Timers set. The beacon cracked, then healed. It was alive. It was learning. On the moon, Sentinel Point activated its main railgun to strike the Antarctic beacon. Shot fired, perfect, precise. But halfway through its flight, the rail Projectile turned and vanished. It deleted physics, Commander Voss whispered. It didn't dodge. It just decided gravity didn't matter. Every scientist agreed on one thing. The beacons weren't broadcasting a signal out. They were waiting for a response, and on the edge of the solar system, something answered. A ship not, a council model. Not anything anyone recognized into the system, not through space, but through a tear in it, a wound in reality itself. It was miles wide, silent, geometric. Wrong. It didn't glow. It absorbed light. Instruments called it a ship. But Dr. Yin said it was a verdict machine. The architects had arrived. But Earth was not afraid. General Shaw stood before the world. Live on every broadcast. They abandoned us. They tried to break us. They told us we weren't worthy. Now, they're sending their gods. Let them come. Humanity backed into a corner, facing judgment. Had made its choice. They would not surrender. They would rewrite the rules. The first of the architect's ships entered Earth's upper orbit without sound. Without warning, and without even a trace of energy signature that any human or alien device could fully read. It hovered there like a forgotten god, larger than any moon, blacker than any shadow. It cast no light, no reflection. It simply existed, quietly, powerfully, and undeniably wrong. Humanity watched it from the ground in silence, not because of fear, but because of something worse. Uncertainty. Number. One knew what it wanted. No one knew if it was even alive. But everyone knew one thing had come to pass judgment. In cities across the world, crowds gathered around screens. From Tokyo to New York, from Nairobi to Moscow, every satellite and station now showed the same image. The architect vessel, motionless in the sky, as if waiting. World leaders sent messages. Scientists broadcast every known language. Even alien prisoners were asked to try and make contact. There was no answer, no noise, no movement. It was a courtroom waiting for a sentence to be spoken inside Earth Command, deep beneath the Rockies. General Shaw paced. They're watching, recording, studying our fear. He turned to Dr. Marla Yin. How do we answer something that doesn't speak? Marla's eyes were locked on her screen. With a voice louder than theirs, she whispered. And so Earth roared. The Orbital Defense Platform Sentinel Point fired the first strike for experimental plasma bolts powered by Council tech and human creativity. Each shot was meant to disrupt dimensional shielding. They struck the architect's ship and vanished. No explosion, no resistance, just gone, like pebbles dropped into an endless ocean. But Earth didn't stop. Seconds later, multiple coordinated attacks launched from Earth's surface. Railguns, EMPs, kinetic lances, and graviton, spikes all. Things Earth had only recently learned to build were aimed not to destroy, but to be noticed. Humanity's message was clear. We are not afraid of your silence. Then the sky moved. Not the clouds, not the stars. No, the sky itself. People screamed as the blue above turned white-hot and cracked like glass. The architect's ship pulsed once, and the atmosphere trembled. Trees bent. Oceans recoiled. Every animal on the planet fell silent. It was not a weapon. It was an emotion. Disgust. The architects had heard the challenge, and they replied with disdain, but they didn't fire back. Instead, in Antarctica, the beacon tower flared with sickly green light, and something rose from the ice, a humanoid shape 7 meters tall, with no face, no mouth, no skin. It shimmered like it was made of liquid code. It stepped from the beacon as if waking from a long sleep. It wasn't human. It wasn't alive. It was a sentence given shape. The architects didn't send armies. They sent a warden. It moved toward the nearest human base, ignoring bullets, ignoring missiles. Everything passed through it. Every man-made thing rejected by its existence. One soldier, young rebel named Arya Kent, stood her ground. She had once fought in the streets of Paris when the council bombed it. She had seen her family vanish in a flash of blue fire. She raised a simple railgun and fired. The shot didn't kill it, but it paused. And for a moment, Arya saw something. Behind its shimmering skin, an old memory, almost human. Almost sad, the warden looked at her and said, "You are not compliant. This version of humanity must be overwritten." Then it raised a hand, and reality around Arya began to distort. Gravity failed, time bent. Her teammates were screaming through cums, trying to reach her. But she didn't run. She spoke. "No, we failed your tests. We were never built to obey, but we weren't built to die either." And somehow that stopped the warden, just long enough for the team's experimental energy anchor device, meant to tether unstable fields to lock around it. The warden shrieked, its voice like code breaking apart. In orbit, the architect's ship shifted. For the first time it moved. Commander Voss, still aboard Sentinel Point, whispered, "They're reacting. They're evaluating." Dr. Yin stared at the readings and realized something terrifying. They're not punishing us for being violent. They're punishing us for being unpredictable. The architects had judged countless species across the galaxy. Most had submitted, failed, and been reset. But Earth. Earth had laughed at conquerors, reverse-engineered godlike tech in months, and stood tall against odds that should have crushed them. It wasn't their violence that threatened the galaxy. It was their refusal to follow logic. The warden was destroyed not by a weapon, but by the weight of human defiance. The beacon, now destabilized, began to crack. One by one, others across the globe pulsed with wild, uncontrolled energy. A chain reaction was beginning. The beacons weren't just transmitters. They were keys. And now the lock was broken. Above Earth, the architect's ship released one final pulse. Not an attack. A message. A voice echoed across every channel. Calm, slow, and impossibly old. Species. Human. Status. Anomaly. Directive. Deferred. The ship turned and vanished. Not in a flash. Not with sound. One moment it was there. The next it wasn't. As if reality itself had decided it never existed. And just like that, the architects were gone. The beacons crumbled. The ice fell silent. The warden dissolved into static. The world breathed again, but it wasn't peace. It was warning. Humanity had not won. They had been postponed. For now, and that to them was victory enough. All across the earth, silence echoed louder than any war. The architect's ship had vanished, its final message still ringing through every satellite and speaker. Species. Human. Status. Anomaly. Directive. Deferred. Not destroyed. Simply delayed. But anyone with sense knew what that really meant. Humanity had unsettled the oldest powers in the galaxy. They weren't being spared. They were being watched closer than ever before. And maybe even feared. Inside Earth Command's mountain fortress, the mood was not celebration. It was calculation. General Shaw stood before a wall of screens displaying data streams from every nation. Beacons had melted into ruins. The warden had collapsed into digital dust. But none of it made him relax. "We poked a god," he said, "and now it knows our name." Dr. Marla Yin ran her fingers through her hair, staring at the anomaly logs. "He didn't expect us to respond. The way we did. Not with logic, not with surrender, but with defiance. Jokes. With broken rules, we're a virus to them." She turned to the room, and viruses don't win wars. They spread. While leaders debated next moves, humanity responded in the only way it knew how, by moving faster. Underground labs reopened. Black site projects. Alien tech previously hidden from the public was now being tested openly. Skunkworks programs joined hands with civilian tech giants. They didn't trust the stars anymore. If the architects ever returned, Earth wouldn't. Just survive, they'd make sure the sky bled. On Mars, an old military outpost was activated again. Beneath Europa's oceans, autonomous drones built defenses. Even on the moon, new tunnels were dug, hiding research that could twist gravity itself. Earth was no longer just one planet. It was a scattered fortress across the solar system, and every piece of it was building toward something bigger, but not everyone agreed. Some factions feared what had happened. They believed the architects were right that humanity was a dangerous mistake. For council cults, still loyal to the old, galactic order began appearing in cities. They worshipped the silence, saw the architect's judgment as divine. One cult in Australia built a tower aimed at deep space, trying to send out a signal, begging the architects to return and purify the chaos. The tower never sent a signal. It exploded during its first power-up. Some say it was sabotage. Others say something from beyond stopped it. Either way, the message was clear. Not even the architects wanted Earth's traitors anymore. Meanwhile, deep in the forests of Canada, a group of young engineers, too independent for government work too, smart to stay quiet, decoded the last frame of the warden's death. In it, for a split second, they found something that didn't belong. A code structure, written in Earth programming language. Not alien, not divine, human. This thing had our code in it, said Arya Kent, now hailed as a resistance hero. That means either they copied us, or we were already part of something much older. The idea was terrifying. What if humanity hadn't just been judged as outsiders? What if they were part of the system and the architects were trying to erase a version of themselves gone rogue? The galaxy thought humans were new, but what if they were ancient? This theory spread fast. Not through official channels, but across forums, dark nets, and whispered podcasts. It said that humanity was not an accident, but a buried backup of something the galaxy had once feared and erased. No. It had re-emerged, louder, messier, and more rebellious than before, and maybe more dangerous. The final confirmation came from an unlikely place. A derelict alien station floating just beyond Neptune's orbit. Long thought and active, the station suddenly powered on. A Deep Space Explorer drone caught it pulsing with red light. When Earth teams arrived, they found a message etched into the core reactor written in binary code. It read, "They remember you." That changed everything. The architects didn't fear humans because they were unpredictable.
Oh.
They feared them because they were familiar, like an old nightmare returning, like something they'd tried to bury, failed. So Earth made a decision. They would no longer try to join the Galactic Order. They would not seek the Council's approval. They would not beg for the architect's mercy. Humanity was done asking to be accepted. They were going to become the storm others feared. Massive ships were built in orbit, not for diplomacy, but for dominance. Old AI systems were rebooted not for peacekeeping, but for war strategy. Nations divided for so long finally understood that unity was not a choice. It was survival. A human-led coalition formed, not to join the stars, but to rewrite the rules of the galaxy. And at the center of it all stood the new beacon, this time not alien. It's not foreign but human-made. Taller than any building on Earth, it pulsed with energy created by Earth's fusion of stolen tech and raw innovation. It didn't broadcast surrender. It didn't plead for peace. It broadcast one word on every known frequency. Ready? And across the galaxy, old powers stirred. Silent factions began to notice. Some saw Earth as a rising threat. Others saw it as the future. All knew one truth. The architects had tried to erase a spark. Instead, they had lit a fire, and the galaxy would never forget that flame again. They came at dawn, not with a warning, but with fire. A fleet of ancient ships, silent. Their hulls lined with star metal that shimmered like the night sky, pierced through Jupiter's orbit without hesitation. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't negotiate. They didn't send ambassadors. These were not diplomats. These were enforcers. Architects had changed their minds. They wouldn't wait for humanity to evolve or die off. They had returned to finish what they started. But Earth was no longer the world they remembered, from hidden bunkers beneath. Humanity had spent years preparing for this moment. They hadn't rebuilt Earth's defenses to survive. They had forged them to win. Within minutes, Countermeasures spun into motion. Satellites blinked awake. Railgun platforms on Mars locked targets. AI swarms readied themselves for swarm war. And yet, humanity didn't fire first. They waited. When the first Architect ship began charging its weapons, humanity gave them one final gift: a message. It broadcast across all frequencies in a calm human voice. Translated into every galactic tongue: we are not part of your order. We never were. We don't want your place. But if you try to take our home, we'll burn the stars around it to keep you away. The Architects didn't respond. They didn't have to. Their answer came as a pulse of white-hot plasma from their lead ship, a bolt that screamed toward Earth's orbit like a god's judgment, but it never reached. A wall of Earth-born satellites, laced with alien shielding tech and human ingenuity, absorbed the blow. One flared and melted, but 10 more took its place. The moment the attack failed, humanity unleashed everything. Kinetic rods fell like lightning. Stealth drones zipped through Architect hulls like bees in a storm. Quantum missiles tore through space and bent reality just enough to phase past shields. From Mars to Earth's skies, war exploded like never before. The Architects were ancient, cold, logical, but they hadn't expected rage. They hadn't expected chaos. And most of all, they hadn't expected humor. Some human fighters painted their ships with memes and jokes. One strike cruiser broadcast rock music while slicing through a starship's engines. A Martian gunner screamed, "Yippee-ki-yay," before detonating an entire Architect frigate. To the Architects, it made no sense. To humans, it made them dangerous. Back on Earth, the command centers ran simulations so fast they nearly burned out their AI cores. Every battle decision was fed into a neural net that adjusted tactics on the fly. Human ships moved like unpredictable animals, unreadable, wild, but always effective. The Architects fought with precision. Humanity fought with madness. And madness this time had better weapons. By the third day, Architect losses began to mount. Their fleet was massive, but they had misjudged the human reach. On Europa, sabotage drones detonated beneath Architect landers. Near Venus, a human-built EMP wave shattered an entire command wing. And on Titan, a weapon humanity had sworn never to use again, a gravity knife ripped space in half, swallowing 2 capital ships whole. Still, the Architects kept coming, and Earth kept hitting back. But it was not enough to just fight. Humanity wanted the galaxy to see. Every Architect ship destroyed was broadcast live. Every heroic last stand, every impossible escape, every sacrifice, it was streamed. Across the stars, species who once ignored Earth now watched in awe. Some began to question the Architects. Others began to whisper the impossible. Was Earth winning? On the 5th day, the Architect flagship emerged, a moon-sized fortress that carried a mind older than recorded time. Its name had no translation. Humans simply called it the Judge. It didn't attack with weapons. It attacked with presence. It scrambled tech with thought. It disabled weapons by warping gravity. Human ships were crushed just by being seen. By it, and still they came. Dozens of ships, fighters, bombers, junkers with barely working engines. Some were crewed by scientists, others by volunteers. They didn't come to win. They came to buy time. Because on the dark side of Earth's moon, a new weapon had been growing. Not a bomb, not a ship, a message, carved into energy itself by stolen Architect code. Fueled by the remains of every lost experiment, humanity had created a signal not just to speak, but to reprogram. They called it the answer. And when the Judge neared Earth's orbit, humanity fired it, a pulse of pure logic. Wrapped in chaos, it didn't destroy the Judge, it made it see. For the first time in eons, the Architect mind paused. Within its core, it saw flashes of humanity not as data, not as error, but as a reflection. The stubbornness, the unpredictability, the will, all the things the Architects had tried to erase from themselves millennia ago. And now, its spark had returned. At the edge of Earth's orbit, the Judge stopped. Then it turned. The remaining Ships followed. One by one, the fleet backed away. No explanation, no promise, no apology. Just retreat, and then silence. Humanity stood among its wreckage-burned skies, shattered moons, lost ships and breathed. They had bled, they had sacrificed, they had survived, not by begging, by choosing. Across the stars, species who had. Once ignored, Earth began to send messages. Not threats, not demands. Alliances the galaxy had watched. Now it understood. Humanity wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a glitch. It was a warning. And Earth would never kneel again.